Welcome to HeARTtalk. I'm your host, writer, educator, and creator, Tracey Michae'l. I didn't know that when I chose deeper as my word for 2019 and on New Year's Day jumped into an icy cold Atlantic Ocean as a symbol of my willingness to take risk and do the unthinkable, to go where most will never go, that's exactly what I would have to do this year. Deeper in my own journey toward emotional and physical healing, like I'm literally recording this from my makeshift studio at home. Deeper in my relationship with God. Deeper in my excavation of all the pain that I'd buried. And even deeper in my experience of true peace and joy. It has certainly been one of those be careful what you ask for seasons. You know what I mean? Some of us have asked God for more patience and are sitting around trying to figure out why everybody around us is trying us. Be careful what you ask for, sis. Bruh. Be for real. Like, be careful. Anyway, one of the things I've learned this year is the value of, no matter what, holding on to hope. And maybe that's why I'm excited about this inaugural episode of HeARTtalk, because it really is a manifestation of my hope in the midst of a season that, some might call hopeless, depending on, the lens. We've all seen what happens when a people become hopeless. Hopeless people have nothing to lose. And in some cases, they turn to destructive behaviors for the satisfaction of that fear and anger, which I believe are probably the drivers of despair. And if we're honest, we've all been there, right? Like, that feeling of when you just say, F it, I'm going to eat this whole bag of Oreos. Or maybe that's just me. Or you say, forget it, I'm going to drink this whole bottle of Hennessy because I don't care anymore. In fact, I don't care so much that I'm going to drive home after drinking said bottle of Hennessy because I don't care anymore. And the result of all of that can be, and it often is, more traumatic than we anticipated. Deep down, we do care. We want to, at least. I know it's cool nowadays to say, I gives no Fs. And there are certainly areas where maybe we are too preoccupied with what people say or think. But that's not what I'm talking about here. Hopelessness is a driver of so much of the awfulness we see in this world. And for real, for me, hope keeps me sane. It gives me something to envision for my future. It fuels my faith. That old passage that we see often in scripture and at least in my faith tradition, your faith has made you whole. And when I think about those stories, like I think about the biblical account of Jesus, healing people, it wasn't the touch of the woman with the issue of the blood that healed her. It was her faith, her hope, and the possibility that she could be healed if she just touched the hem of his garment, right? And that seems to be the running theme in that biblical record, right? Jesus constantly saying, do you want to be made whole? Or things like, your faith has healed you. So with hope, I think also comes peace. See, I tend to be a skeptic, even a cynic at times, but I've learned that peace cannot live alongside my cynicism. It works in tangent with my hope. And sometimes even healthy skepticism can impede my ability to hold out hope for healing, for something to happen beyond my wildest imagination, a miracle perhaps. It was hope that sent me to therapy. It was hope that had me seek out a form of therapy called EMDR in order to deal with past traumas. And I think we'll talk about EMDR in this show, eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. And I've said all that to say that today I wanted to open up this season of episodes with an interesting talk on trauma and how storytelling and art helps to heal it. I'd like to share with you a conversation that I had with Annette Deigh. Annette is a licensed clinical social worker based out of the Metro Philadelphia area. She's also a behavioral health therapist serving both children and adult clients, and she's the president of the Pennsylvania Society for Clinical Social Workers. As a mental health professional who is also a survivor of domestic violence, incest, and child sexual assault, Annette is also a writer whose short story, In Search of Soul, The Parallel Process of a City and a Black Woman on the Brink, was published in an anthology tribute to Nina Simone. I thought she'd be a great person to talk to about the ways that art and storytelling can help someone who's looking to heal from trauma or traumatic experiences. So HeARTtalk fam, let's peek in on the conversation and let's welcome Annette to the show. Hello, Annette.
Hi, Tracey.
Thank you so much for coming to HeARTtalk. I appreciate it so much. So this is the question that we always ask every one of our guests, is how's your heart today? How are you feeling?
I am feeling today very blessed and very grateful. It is a Monday, and the weather this morning was not like it was over the weekend. The weekend was like sunny and beautiful, and we were active, me and the kids, and we woke up. I think we all woke up on the wrong side of the bed.
I know that's it.
You're like, oh, it's pouring, and it's a Monday, and we have all this stuff to get ready. But so we had to power through. Mm-hmm. And I got both the kids off, and I started my day. And then, I was thinking about how it must be for many of the clients I serve, to have this cloud over them all the time. I sent my mom a picture, a Bitmoji. It was like me with a cloud over it. So right now I'm feeling very blessed. I'm feeling grateful because I was able to power through, and I'm here with you.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling good. So yes, my heart is feeling very full right now.
Awesome. Well, I can say that we are grateful to have you. We're actually recording this right in the middle of Heart Space. So we are in the quarterly pop-up space that we have here in Lansdowne, Pennsylvania. So the background noise may be there a little bit. If you hear a car driving by, that's okay. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the work that you do as a social worker and as a private therapist.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we'll dive into, what that means for all of our HeARTtalk listeners.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for asking. So yes, I am a therapist. Well, I'm a social worker by training. I like to say that because people oftentimes mix up social workers with, for instance, caseworkers, and don't really appreciate who we really are. So I would say I do have my master's in social work, so I'm a social worker. Title protection is big in the social work field because unfortunately, and for instance, in child protective services, people automatically assume that everybody that works for instance, DHS is a social worker. And a lot of times people have their bachelor's degree, but it might be in history. So, which is okay, but it's not they don't necessarily have the same training and the same ethics as trained social workers do. So, start by saying I am a social worker. And as a social worker and a therapist, I wear many hats. So I work full-time for Family Practice and Counseling Network, which is currently a part of RHD and has been since the formation. And I'm an outpatient therapist. So I have about 32 clients that I see on a regular basis. I'm very blessed that I found my life's work. Mm-hmm. When I was younger, I wanted to be a lawyer or a nurse and everything but a therapist. I never knew until becoming a social worker and even going to therapy that I wanted to be a therapist. Mm-hmm. So full time I'm a therapist, and I also have a private practice, Boundary Span LLC, in which I also see clients as their therapist. and I do clinical supervision. So people trying to get their C, because I'm a licensed clinical social worker. People trying to get there, I help them with their supervision hours, help them accumulate those. And in addition to that, I do some mediations and trainings and things like that. And lastly, but not, well, I'm a mommy first, but I would say that. I'm a mommy and a wife.
Yes.
Which my social work
Which
skills,
is important.
yes, my social work skills come in handy with the kiddies.
I love that. I love that.
Well, also the vice president for the Pennsylvania Society for Clinical Social Workers, and as of July 1, I'll be the president, which is a big role in itself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Go ahead. I love that. So it's interesting when I think about what you just said and all the hats that you carry. One of the things that I know you do a lot of work around is self-care for people who find themselves in helping professions. And a lot of what I want to do with HeARTtalk is really looking at the ways in which we can use the arts. And that can be anything. It can be movement, it can be writing, it can be visual arts like painting, etc. The ways in which people use arts to heal from trauma. And so I'd love to get your take. I know for me, I am a writer. Everyone knows that I'm a writer. But I started painting about, I want to say like 5-6 years ago, not because I was trying to be the next whoever, but because it was a way for me outside of what I did for a living to deal with some trauma that childhood trauma, specifically around sexual assault and sexual trauma. And so it was a way for me to, and I heard a artist articulate this in a way that really made sense to me, Addie Neves actually. It was a way for me to put my pain someplace. So I was able to put my pain on the canvas, and the canvas could hold it. And so I would love for you to talk a little bit about the ways that you have seen people, clients, etc., use the arts or use storytelling as a way to work through trauma in your experience, especially children. I mean, if you're dealing with, children you're dealing with some significant trauma.
Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing. I'm also a survivor of child sexual assault and trauma and abuse. And actually, like talking about the arts, I started writing when I was just getting out of my trauma journey. And it was also a way for me to just put it somewhere, in addition, to going to therapy and doing that part of the healing, to put it somewhere outside of me. Because as trauma survivors, we often feel it in our bodies. And the trauma has real significance and real effects on our bodies. So the arts can be definitely a great way to get it outside of us. Put it somewhere, and then it helps us to reflect. So for instance, in addition to my own writing, it was very therapeutic for me. So I encourage clients to write as one way to heal. And it might be journaling, it might be writing a letter to your perpetrator, and throwing it away or burning it, whatever is going to be most healing to you. And I'm very fortunate to work in a place that is very holistic, and also within my private practice, I really talk about again, holistic self-care. So for instance, where I'm at now, we have a mind-body clinician who does meditation, and she does Reiki and yoga, and so we really encourage our clients to, in addition to the therapy, and some clients that I have are also on medication, but in addition to all that, have things that you can take home with you, because I'm an outpatient therapist. I don't go home with them. So do things at home, in your day-to-day, that you can implement on a regular basis. And so there might be dance even. Music is very therapeutic for myself, as well as many clients that I have. I have a whole playlist that's called my self-soothing music. Mm-hmm. This morning I was I gotta put my self-soothing music on.
Honey, Beyonce get you free. Sometimes you just gotta turn on a little bit and drop it real quick.
Exactly. Let it out.
If a twerker lets it out, then a twerk or two might be your healing.
Yes, exactly. So however we need to get it out.
Right.
And yes, dance, writing, movement. singing, whatever, like gets it out, and art, like they putting, like you said, on canvas, and there's so many different mediums now, so I can really appreciate that too.
So here's the thing, a lot of times we have people who resist the kinds of therapy or, treatment that's out there. I know even as a creative, there are artists out there who don't like their work to be viewed as that, or resist their own kind of healing process. And so I'm curious, why do you think people resist therapy or treatment?
I think the stigma is real. People, think, going to see a therapist means that they're crazy, and that's not the case at all. Everybody needs somebody to talk to, everybody needs a support. And so people see, they don't want to be deemed or viewed as crazy. And so they say, oh, no, I'm not going to see a therapist, or I'm not going to see a psychiatrist. That's for crazy people. When in actuality, we all need to have, again, a sense of support. Therapists see therapists too. And also, working through trauma is hard. It's hard work. There's no easy button. And so what I tell people is to trust me, because we're going to be working through it, and it's going to be hard work. So you might not feel better right away. If you're long-term therapy, there's no magic in the wand. So you're probably not going to feel better tomorrow. When we just started today, we're coming multiple times a week. Some people come every week, multiple times a week, every couple of weeks or so. But it's a process. There's no easy button. It's hard work. It's painful because you are revisiting wounds, and trauma, and trauma is not fun. Yeah, right. Nobody wants to hurt. We want the magic pill. We want to take the happy pills and keep it moving.
Right.
And so it's hard work. When we ask people when people go through treatment, I think deep down people have a sense that, hey, this is not going to be like me going to a picnic. This is hard, and we naturally as humans we resist things that are hard.
Yeah. I mean, it brings up things. It's so funny because when I go into therapy, my therapist laughs at me because I always say, okay, so I need an immediate solution. I don't need this process. I don't need to be going through this for any lengthy period of time. I need you, when I leave here today, to give me a solution. And she's like, that's not how this works. And this is not how it's going down. But that's I am very much that person, and it took a long time for me to just respect the process and respect the fact that I am going to have to sit in sometimes that pain a little bit in order to overcome it.
Yes.
It's interesting. Earlier you were talking about African Americans specifically, and how slavery and oppression has an impact. I mean, it is a traumatic experience that's in our DNA. You talk about, I think it's Joy DeGruy's work on post-traumatic slave syndrome, and this idea that some of that stuff generationally is passed down, and even current present day oppression, right? And the impact of seeing, what I call sometimes trauma porn, right? Just constantly, especially with 24-hour news cycles and social media. But I was thinking this morning in the shower that I don't know if Black people, I think we would have gone the way of the Mayans had it not been for our ability to tell stories in the arts. Because it was the thing that we were allowed to do, right? To dance, to sing. I know there's stereotypes that are associated with that. But the ability, I mean, if you think about the innovation that's come out of the Black community here in America, we wouldn't have jazz, we wouldn't have country, we wouldn't have, rock and roll, we wouldn't have R&B, we wouldn't have hip hop, we wouldn't have any major genre of music, right? And that's just music. But that's not even dance, that's not even the great writers, right? And I believe that as a survival technique, we learn how to channel that pain into someplace else, to put it someplace else.
Yes.
And even, taking the ancestry of Africa and the storytelling, the passing, the griot, like that kind of thing, and telling stories in new ways in the new world, so to speak, the alleged new world, right? Was a way to stay alive.
Yes.
And that's what I hope people get, that we can continue that. We can continue to use arts as a way to heal, to live, to thrive. And I feel like that's the key, that's the ticket. And it may look different for, like, I'm sure, some clients are like, I'm not going to be walking around singing around the house. So it may look different for people. But I'm wondering, for you, what have you seen success stories? I know you have, like people who have started in one place and have gone someplace else as a result of them either telling their stories in a particular way or using the arts.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you for asking that question. So powerful and so profound, because it's true, and I want to circle back and talking about how we had to survive. I mean, it was a survival technique through the arts, even even going as far as hairstyles. We put maps, in our cornrows, and we have all these elaborate hairstyles because they were maps to freedom, and there were ways to get our stories told. The arts, we need the arts. It's not a luxury. I see these inner city schools, and they try to. Why do you think they try to take away music, and arts and stuff? Because they don't want our people to have it. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but
right.
There's reasons behind all of this. I mean, and again, it permeates throughout our history. And I have, yes, to answer your question, I definitely have had successes where people they might have never picked up a pen, to tell their story. And then at the end of the day, they have a book of poetry, and they carry it with them, and they say, this is my story. And I just feel so blessed to be a witness, and to be a vessel. I'm sorry, I might get a little emotional.
That's okay. We cry at the HeARTtalk, baby. We get that cry on over here.
So yes, it's just a blessing to witness it, people changing through the arts and healing, and being open to the treatment because they see what a difference it's making, and they're seeing that they're healing. And we might not ever be fully healed. I sometimes get triggered. But I mean, at least we're a lot of times we're in a better position to help others because we've again been a witness. And we can relate. And we can pour into others. As we've been poured into.
Yeah. I think that's a huge and a great way to kind of end our conversation. I think it's huge because sometimes we are looking like, I'm done, I'm healed. And I honestly think because I am regularly actually re-triggered, right? Especially nowadays with the news and everything.
It's everywhere.
But I now have the tools. And I think at the end of the day, therapy and, the arts and everything that we use gives us a way to, number one, be aware of what's happening in our bodies, in our minds, but then also a way to manage it, right? So I know when I'm on the verge of a panic attack, I can feel it coming, and I can do my deep breathing, I can do my grounding exercises, I can go and paint, I can go and write, I can go and listen to Beyonce and twerk, right? I can do whatever those things, and I'm aware of. There's a consciousness, and I think sometimes it's just there's a lot of people walking around that are unconscious, right? They feel something,
right.
And so they're just reacting, and they're not necessarily knowing that there's specific things that they can do to help move through that place,
right.
so that they can go on to whatever else they have to do. And so I'm increasingly aware of how necessary this work is. I want to thank you for doing what you do on a daily basis. And the fact that you are becoming the president of this association means that you're not only doing the work in your own community, but you are influencing those out there who are doing it in their communities. And that's huge impact. So, sister, Just give us all the black girl magic.
Yes, thank you.
And we appreciate you for coming to Heart Talk, one of our first episodes. I'm excited to hear the feedback.
Thank you so much, Tracey. I appreciate you, and
Yes.
thank you for all the work you're doing with Heart Talk and Heart Space, and pouring into the community. It does a heart good.
Yes. Hey, that's a heart good. I might borrow that. Can I have that? Yes. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Heart Talk is written and produced by my mommy, Tracey Michae'l Lewis-Giggetts, for Heart Space and New Season Books and Media. Go to HeARTtalkpodcast.com to learn more. See you next time.